Oh, okay. I mean, that can be a thing. Like, but I guess y- setups, right? Setups. What's the setup? So that's where I would kind of go in with this. Like, what's the setup? I notice you have to have these things, but like you have like a conjecture thing, like a logic. I mean, who are we to have any logic? Bachu. Hey, there, I would keep this one too. You got kind of 3 tightening days. Hey, good morning, everybody. What's up? We got a lot of things going on today. So let's um let's get to work here and see what we can do. Cause man, this is like a little hoot nanny over here. Da-da-da-da. Hi, Bachu. All right, cool. Well, first of all, let's do this properly. All right. Well, once again, Chris, what I ask is, what's the setup? That's the key. Like, if you can't give me a name, then it may be nothing. Good. All right. Hey, good morning, everybody. What's going on? Let's get to work, man. We got things to do. So, look, the market is opening up fairly flat. We're a little bit under the 50-day moving average. So, kind of today is like a little bit of a nothing burger so far in the pre market. What I mean by that is, after yesterday's big dumperoni, hey, buddy, we've got kind of just a gap up into yesterday's high in the pre market, and we've kind of faded off a little bit here. And so we have a flat open, and it's going to be a tricky one. It's going to be a tricky one. And the reason is this: say we kind of bounce up a little bit. We're going to run right into this 50-day moving average, the 20-day moving average, and the 9 EMA. So we have like kind of all this supply right here. So like even if in our heads we're like, oh, we should bounce a little bit, we very well might, right? It's not an easy one. Like you're going to have booby traps everywhere. And when you have booby traps everywhere, like things get a lot more tricky, right? Because you're like dancing around all of this stuff. So even though you're like a little bit oversold after a couple days, maybe you're not really oversold. The 39 stochastics. You have all these booby traps here, and so the question becomes, I noticed like a lot of you guys put all these longs on your watch list. That why are there only longs, Bryce? Right? Like, what makes us think that this is just like, oh, because we were down a lot, that today we're going to be up? If you're running into right all these levels of supply and stuff like that. So this is not an easy open. Frankly, you could roll this thing red and come all the way back down. Like, why would that not be more logical? So we don't necessarily, you never know till you know. So this is like the tricky open because you're under yesterday's high, but above yesterday's low. But then you're also right on the daily chart, right in this kind of, this range. So we have all this kind of stuff here that we'll have to dance around. And that's why it is very, very important when you have a trend day like yesterday where everything was dying off, that you really capitalize. You really capitalize because, today you may get an inside day, right? You may get a little, yes, my son. You may get a little bit of a chop suey. Often remember this, you can put a little sticky note on. When you have like a big down day or a big up day, the next day, the first hour or so often is a little bit choppy too. So you got to make sure you have really good ranges and really good setups, if you're going to nail something, because sometimes they just get a little bit, a little bit up and down. Hey, good morning, by the way, everybody. Cool. Now, beyond all of this stuff, I don't know if that necessarily matters. Bachu, that's gross. Dude, my son's just, literally picking stuff off the ground and fucking eating lint, carpet hair, dog hair. Bacho. No. This Gundam. Come here, you little silly guy. Oh. D D D D D. G G G D. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. Hey, buddy. Wow. Tuk 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 tuk. Whoa. There he is. Hey. Hey, handsome. Look at this guy. Yeah. I love you, buddy. Good morning. You want to say hello? Yeah. Big talker. Big. Okay, go back to eating. Eating things off the floor. Go back to eating things off the floor. So going back to this, guys, we have the tricky open. I think the play is probably to just look and see first. Do we got any news plays? Do we got any earnings plays? Do we have anything like that that may give us a little something so we don't have to sit there and stare at the semiconductors? And we'll take a look at the semis and all this stuff in a second, but because some of them are gapping too, a little bit of the fun's out of it. So let's just take a look, see if we got any economic reports or anything like that. You got durable goods, some home stuff, nothing crazy here. Bum, 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 bum. Commodities, all just a cluster for the most part. You can see here, you got a handful of these little guys going. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, you got a couple Cisco out for form, a little bit of just a nothing burger on, even upgrades and stuff. So we're a little bit light on just like kind of the news today. We do have some earnings out here today. So you got BA, you got GM, JetBlue, usually moves around a little bit because it's a big Rundy. This Yeah, he's I think 6-7 months. So he's like, yeah, he's getting there. And then you got RCL, RTX may move around a little bit too, and SIFI, all of this kind of stuff. And then after a little bit more action. Look, for the rest of the week, we'll have some bigger companies, report earnings. In general, guys, when you're looking at earnings plays, it's not the bigger companies that usually, have all the fun anyways, right? Because a lot of the bigger companies, they just rip and have a huge gap and you're like sitting around most of the day. You kind of want to find some of these other ones anyway. So let's take a look and see what's going on with these bad boys. And let's see if we got any juice. Yeah. Cool. Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum. Yes, but you. Yeah, Bowen's got a flat open on this right now. You never really know. You've got a level here, and it can get there quick. Sometimes these stocks, when they got the earnings on, they got that flat open. They kind of lull you, and it may dump down. You never know, but keep an eye on this kind of like 180, 179 spot, and you'll see if you can kind of rip through that bad boy. I actually got this on my watch list because there's not really that many stocks left in like these kind of bigger bases. It's not like some big hot mover, but I think we can. I think we may have a chance to get something going. On the other side of things, you can see here you got this Yippo junk. Hey, this. Not really sure what's going on in this one. The only 84,000 shares. Let me just look it up real quick, see if we got any news on this. Yo, Mo, what up, baby? SDR1. No, I don't see anything significant on this. Hey, this is actually, this one isn't actually an interesting chart. I've been watching this one for a little bit of time. You got this kind of flat top breakout that's happening here. Yesterday, you had an inside day. You very well could get like a little bit of you could come back here and get it did 5-6 million shares here. You could get a little something on something like this. Like, I've been watching this one for a little bit. It moves okay. Bum, 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 bum. Yeah, I think Black Sky wins more than $100 million contract from strategic international defense sector customer. Blah blah blah. So and this is kind of a little bit of one of these satellite companies. Space is still hot. If you look right, this RDW even yesterday, Bachu, right? The market was taking a huge blumpkin, and it's still like it's having these pushes. Now it did fade off, so you got this little middle finger over here, but I think these space stocks and satellite stocks and all of this is still holding up pretty good. I'd add this to the watch list. Like, you already got 600,000 shares in volume. It's not a huge one. Bacho. Oh. Yes. Hey, mister. Dee 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 dee. Yes. I know. My little naughty. Dee 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 dee. What? So we'll keep this one on the watch list too. You got CDT. Hey, yeah, you got a little gap up in these quantums. I personally, these are done. This is like a rollover pattern for the most part. You're gonna have some stop and starts in this where they kind of rip over, but in general, these things are crushed. Da, 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 da. Hey, so this RTX, this is right up our alley, right? So if you look here, you get a breakout to all-time highs. You got to break out to all-time highs. You got actually pretty good range on this bad boy. It's a little bit thin. That's the thing on this bad boy. Like, it's a little bit thin. Here, take this. Yes. I think this has got a little heat to it. Let's roll with this one. Yeah, let's roll with this one and add it. Yeah, don't look at the screens, or your mom's gonna get me. Don't look at the screens, or your mom will get me. I love you, but you do. Yes. Now look at this bad boy. This ALA got crushed on this deep dick news. You got a little bit of a gap up here. You may get a dead cat bounce of this, but I'm not sure this is an easy play either. All of these kind of semiconductors, I mean, it's dropped in half now, so you're probably more at a spot where it is getting closer to bounce. Whoa. Go find it. Hey. Go find it. Yeah, you are getting closer. I was waiting for a little bit closer to the 200-day moving average. You are outside the lower Bollinger Band now. Like, yesterday felt like the wipeout probably on this one. Ideally, if we had a gap down on this, like, I thought probably this would have been a hot little long. This is in no man's land where it's opening up. If I think it's a leave alone. I'm really kind of I want one more flush of this thing. That'll kind of retrace half its gains. So the high was 150. You get this thing 75, 80. You retrace half in a really quick time. That's going to be a good spot. So a lot of these like kind of names from yesterday that dumped off, they're all gapping up, 5-6%. I don't know what the play is on these because, you sucked out some of the range on it, right? So you sucked out, you're gapping up 6%. So half the ATR is already used on some of these. So, you get like an Oclo or something like that. There's nothing wrong with them. The question is just more, was yesterday a one-off thing or was it something, deeper, right? We don't necessarily know because these weren't orderly pullbacks, right? They're crash pullbacks into support. Subachu, tu sukaruchu. Huh? Yeah, so I think, these are read and react plays. These are going to be read and react plays. What I mean by read and react plays is they're going to have the volume and the liquidity and all of this stuff, but you don't necessarily have like, oh, this is a long, oh, this is a short. And the thing is, like, when you have that, right, that kind of like wind behind your back where you're like, hey, I have a thesis behind a trade. This stock is a long because XYZ news, this chart, blah, blah, blah. Then you have a lot of confidence in what you're supposed to do next. But what happens is, like, if you have mixed signals where the short term looks bounce, long term looks short, the midterm looks this, then all of a sudden, you'll have like, you'll be like long something intraday, and then you're like, fuck, I should have shorted it there. And then you're shorting it at some kind of breakdown spot or something like that. And then you're looking at it and you're like, oh man, that was a log, right? And so you have like these kind of mixed signals. So these are read and react plays. I think the same thing, kind of holds true with like a NVIDIA or something like that. Look, just because NVIDIA is down, a couple sticks here, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good deal. Like, there's really no such good thing as good deals anyways in trading. But yeah, it's on the 200-day moving average, and yes, it's dropped 30 points. But in the scheme of its move, right, is 30 points is 30 points anything? Maybe, maybe not. So this is like, your classic too. Like, is this a trap? Like, sure, you're on the 200-day moving average, but look, this is a different type of drop into the 200-day moving average than like, like say you were like looking at Apple for a bounce, and I'm not a fan of this stock in particular, but right, like when you kind of just grind down into the 200-day moving average, and you do it like over the course of go don't do that, don't eat that, and you do it over the course of a handful of weeks, it's a little bit more orderly than, right, if you just get jammed down into support. That's a whole different ball game. So you do want to be mindful. Anytime you get jammed down in support, you're not getting always the easiest play. So just kind of keep that into the back of your heads too. The way these things are opening, like, I think probably like, you could still take down AMD. We were shorting this nonstop yesterday. Watch this bad boy. Like, you're at a key level over here. Yes. You're at a key level over here. You may get some downside still in these things, like, even this, AVGO, like, yeah, it's gapping up a couple points, but does that make it a long? I'm not necessarily sure, right? We don't necessarily know because it got jammed into support in one day, so that's not your kind of orderly pullback. Sorry, my son is just always yapping to himself, and nobody knows what he's saying. Man, that's a little bit tricky. So I think these are going to be read and reacts. Gut feeling is they still trap you on the long side one time, because it's because they're down so much. You're going to get some kind of spike at some point, and then they're going to rug it. It doesn't mean it's going to follow through, but then they might rip it back. That's often kind of what happens. It's like, you'll have these things that tank, and then they'll gap up, and then the chasers get punished, and then the short sellers coming in, they get punished, and then you kind of ramp it back. So be careful. That's not an easy setup by any means. So I think you want to stick with, some of the kind of cleaner, you want to stick with some of these cleaner plays and see what you can roll with it. Yes. Hey, buddy. Whoa. Oh. I know. What? Did you do? What? I know you want to play on the floor. Say hi to everybody. I'm going to take you to your mom. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye. It's your nap time, buddy. You've been up all morning. Cool. Now, let's take a look and see what kind of other kind of news plays we got going over here. Da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da. Yes. Yeah, I think this Boeing, some of these bad boys are going to be in play here. You got RTX, even, Nucor usually moves pretty good on earnings. It's having no reaction so far. But then I think this RCL has also got a spot. So let's kind of look into RCL. This pie is also breaking down. We got RTX, SAP, and then let's see what's up with this SIF. This is more of a bank. Yeah, and that's not much of a reaction over here. So let's add in this RCL. This pie is also breaking down. And I think this BA is going to have a chance. And then we got RTX too. So add in BA. Yes. RTX. And then we'll go over these charts in a hot second. Dun-dun-dun. Yeah, you can see here, not really any heat on the upgrades or downgrades. I guess I wouldn't even consider who's Melius. Nobody knows. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. Yeah, you can see here if you ever you can see some of these. Some of these nukes are still moving around. The question becomes: was it a 1 day thing or not? And we actually really don't know. So we're gonna be taking a look at those charts in a hot second too. Cool. All right, let's get back into these bad boys. What? Hey, messy hair. Yeesh. Yeesh. Buddy, you look like a ginger today. What kind of Indian are you? All right. So let's go back into some of these news plays. So you got Blue Sky with the $100 million contract. You got RTX on earnings. You got, mother truckers. No. Yeah, this BA, I like this thing over the 180. I was really hoping it would, stick for a little bit. That's a good look right there. And then we got RCL2. Man, I think all these are clean, right? All these are clean. If that BA can hold for a little bit, guys, man, this is our play. We kind of missed the spot because we had a week open on it. We missed the spot because we had a week open on it. Bachu Jo Chomchi. Woo! Oh, mother suckers. Yo, that's hotter than a goose's caboose right there. Oh man, that's a juicy. So we've got a couple plays here. Hey, by the way, this acro yesterday had news out. It actually held up pretty good. You got another open on this one. The float's pretty low on this, 45 million shares. And you're kind of coming into a spot here. I'd watch this and see if it catches a bid. If it starts to grind and you start to get through some of these levels and it can do it really fast, then you're going to have something. Oh. Oh, yeah. Let's keep that one on the watch list too. Yes, Bachu. Boom, 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 boom. Man, that's hot. China's. These on the dips. If they start to dip down today, Baba, I think, is a little bit extended. But this PDD is at a spot here. It's at a spot here. And if you can take this out, you're going to get into a good spot right there. So keep an alert at, let's just call this 112, right? And it doesn't really matter, right? The exact spot. These are all like kind of zones of love. You're not necessarily like, drawing lines and ripping triggers. Okay. Whoa. Okay. Yes. What? I know you're tired. Guys, I'm going to just drop him off upstairs real quick. It's his nap time. What? Subatu. Diggy diggy dig. Sorry, he was he was up all night, so I was trying to let my wife sleep for a hot second. He'd been waking up like every 90 minutes. Just just playing, giving me wet wheelies, all sorts of stuff. So going back to this 90 minute, this is a good spot. Let's add this bad boy too. Now look on the other side of things. Let's take a look at some of these nuclears here real quick. Everybody been asking me about. So if you look here, some of these have been broken, right? So when you get a stock like say like this SMR, and you get this like, man, when you get like this kind of like nice trend and then you just come right back in range and you break under these MAs, you have a little bit of a broken chart, right? So you want to be careful. You want to be a little bit careful of just your location on these, right? Like you can't really just because it like kind of broke down yesterday and it's cheaper than it was, it doesn't necessarily make it a long. So you want to be a little bit careful on this bad boy. Oh yeah, by the way, we do got a webinar tonight too. Dun, 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 dun. Let me see if I find the link. I think Evan is gone today. Yeah, well, we got a webinar tonight. We'll kind of go over kind of how to trade this market this year. Boom, 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 boom. Let me see if I find the link. There you go. I got you. Yeah, so going back to this, I think these are no man's land. We want to stay away unless you just get a huge one. So what's the game plan then? Well, what we want to do is we need some hot heat, right? So I think what we need to do is kind of look at which stocks are holding up. This CRM, this is top of the list right here, right? You got all sorts of juicy McGee on this. Like I think we want to hit this on, probably the first pullback. The key on this one is going to be, though, you've got to have, you don't want to chase this. And then you want to watch, all the semiconductors. If the money flows into the semis, then it'll probably come back out of these. So you do want to be a little bit mindful of that. Next one, snow. It held up pretty good yesterday. You had really sick range on this, 10 points at the open. It's still, dude, it's still got a chance on this. Let's add this bad boy too. Hold on here. Beyond that, I think we got to go in and, we want to be dickering and dealing with this Twilio, right? So I would consider this an inside day. It did pop up a little bit. It did pop up a little bit today, but I'd consider that an inside day. You got a real nice sweet spot right there. And you got two things. This gap is on earnings. So you got a catalyst behind it. Number two, you got the inside day. And then three, you got the relative strength, right? So you got a handful of things here that are working for this. So keep this on the watch list. Second one, oh, Netflix. I mean, this thing is getting tighter than a goose's caboose. So after the earnings day, you got the catalyst, you got inside day, inside day, inside day, right? Just 3 days. And look how tight the ranges are, right? So if you look at yesterday, like, the ranges are getting pretty tight. Like you had a momentarily squeeze and then you're just kind of sitting around. If the market can hold, which is a big, hairy Indian butt, that's gonna, that's probably top of the list right there. This is up 5 days in a row, but if it starts to get yanked intraday, if it starts to get yanked intraday, we want to be buyers of this bad boy. What I mean by that is that every kind of dip on this is getting bought up the last few days, right? So this is kind of your new. I guess this is the new market leader for a little bit, right? I mean, it was 606 in the pre-market yesterday, and I mean, you had a fucking six while the market's getting its shit pushed in. This thing ripped 60 points from its pre-market lows. That type of strength, you cannot ignore that. Now, of course, you don't want to chase this up after it's already right. It's already been running for 4 or 5 days. But what'll happen is as these stocks get extended, they'll have these big kind of sticks down where you'll just drop out of nowhere 10, 15, 20 points. That's when you want to start looking at it. Like, right, if it kind of exhausts its ATR on the downside, start looking at it for like a 1, 2, 3 pattern or some type of little bouncy McGee, and you'll get it going. Beyond that, it's a little bit boring, but is it? This Costco ripped 40 points yesterday. You can trade the calls on it. But they're a little bit thin, but you can see here the 950s had a ton of volume on it. The 960s had more than enough volume. I wouldn't say ton of volume, but right, the thousands got enough volume. So you can, if I see the setup on this bad boy, like I'm rolling with it. I would probably do the 1,000 calls. They'll be pretty cheap, and that may be that may be the heat. Dude, I'm liking it. I'm liking it. So okay, so let's think about multiple buckets of trade, right? We've got our relative strength news plays post earnings, Twilio, Netflix, Meta, Snow, right? And then you can add in Costco's a little relative strength play too, right? So these are your hot little charts. Then you got your news plays, all right? This is how you want to build out your watch list, right? It's about just having buckets, right? Buckets of trades, things that are in different manners worthwhile to trade. So now you got your news bucket, right? Black Sky, $100 million contract. You got the acro yoga, right? Big PR yesterday, small little gap up. It's going to move around pretty good. And then you got Boeing, right? You got a trend line break, beating down stock, right? Bad news after bad news. It's been shrugging it off, right? These guys right now, if the door falls off one of their planes and they murk some whistleblower, maybe even a couple whistleblowers, nobody's batting an eye. They're like, sweet, and stock's probably going up. Nobody gives a shit right now, right? The bad news is priced in on this one. You got RTX, right? Full RTX is a defense contractor. They're in the business of defense, right? You got some nice flat top breakout, a little bit thin on volume. I would, if this was doing like 10 million shares in the pre-market or 2 million shares or something, I'd give it a plus setup. But I give it a B just because right, it lacks a little bit of liquidity. Yeah, man, that's nice. Let's add all these bad boys, guys. That's the list. I'm sticking to it. What are we missing, baby? All right, then that's what we gotta go. We gotta do what we gotta do, which is the do. Cool. In the mananas, my friends. Let's roll.